Okay, thank you very much for attending IT Certificates Risk Management Training course. This is our training course for the risk management, and it will consist of two parts. First part, it is the risk management process, and the risk management scenario, it will be our part two. In the risk management process, we will cover the processes required by the risk management and some technical information about the risk management basics and concepts. And we will try to apply all this information in the risk management scenario. We will help you to implement the risk management in your organization based upon the information we got in the risk management process, which is part one of the training course. In the risk management processes part, we will cover the risk management basics and definitions, risk management program, context establishment, risk identification, risk analysis, risk evaluation, risk treatment, risk acceptance, and finally the risk monitoring. In part two, which is the risk management scenario, we will apply all the information which we studied in the part one in the part two as the risk management scenario. It will be the same topics, but we will have some scenarios how you can implement this information in your organization or at a customer site. Let's start part one for the risk management processes. This is your information that this course, it is built on the risk management ISO 27001 risk manager course. First topic, the risk management basics and definitions. What is the risk management? And again, before we start the course, my friends, please, I encourage the questions. If you have any question, don't hesitate. If you have any question and you want to post this question in the chat, or you can ask the question verbally. It's very important not to go through the slides. It's very important to understand the topic. This topic is very important, and as I mentioned, that without risk management, you will not be able to say that you are a professional security engineer. Then again, if you have any question, please don't hesitate to ask, or if you want to post this question in the chat. Okay, what is the risk management? The risk management, it's ongoing process. It is ongoing process. This is very important. It's ongoing process because it's not one time task. No, it is an ongoing process for identifying risks, or opportunities. Then it will be very helpful for identifying risks and opportunities, and to implement plan to address them, and implementing plans to address them. In any organization, we have a lot of risks and opportunities. And these risks and opportunities, very simply, the risks, it will be the negative effect. Opportunity, it will be a positive effect. And we will find very soon the definitions for risks and opportunities in the next few slides. And the risk management, it will highlight the process of identifying the risks and opportunities, and it will help in building plans to address these risks and opportunities. Because usually we want to minimize the risks, and we want to exploit the opportunities. We want to take benefits of any opportunity and exploit it to increase the benefits for the organization. What are the goals and objectives of risk management programs? It is very important to understand what are the objectives of a risk management in any organization. In risk management, it should be a part of the business processes and activities. It is very important that to understand that in any organization, you have to consider the risk management as a part of any process or activity, even if it's existing process or if it's a new process. If it's existing process, we have to find out the risks for these processes and to resolve these risks and to find the suitable security controls related to these processes. And if it's a new process, then we have to find out again what are the risks related to these processes and activities, to find out what are the process or what will be the right action to resolve these risks. It can be terminate the process, it can be transfer the risk, it can mitigate the risk, whatever the action, which we will cover all the information about these risks later. Also, we want the risk management to be a part of daily operations. We don't want to take any action or any step without understanding what are the risks related to these operations, daily operations. In some situation, we may be interested in some actions as a daily operation, as a backup, for example. Backup and recovery, it is a daily operation. What are the risks related to this daily operation? That the media of the backup, it may be corrupted, there may be a problem in recovery data, there may be a problem in keeping the backup media safe. These are risks which you can face in the daily operations, and if we understand the risks which we may face, then we will be able to resolve all these risks, and we will be able to resolve all these problems, and this it will provide better protection for our assets, and consequently this it will help in achieving your goals and objectives for the organizations. Risk management, it is a part of the organization governance, because the organization governance, it is helping in protecting the assets, and it will help in achieve the goals and objectives. Risk management, it will help in achieving the asset or assets protection. Then this means that governance and risk management, they are very important and they are complement to each other. Or risk management, it will be a main component for organization governance. The organization, they want to protect the assets, they want to provide the security controls to help in achieving the objectives and goals of the organization. Risk management provides very important information for the management for decision making. It is very important to understand that the risk management, it will provide the information required for the management to understand the current situation, to introduce a new process, a new activity, or to stop a new process or activity. It depends upon the risk management results. This information, it will be very important to help the management in decision making. This information, it will be based upon the risk management exercise for analyzing the risks, for understanding the risks, for understanding the effect of these risks on the organization and how this it can help the organization in achieving goals and objectives, or it can be an obstruction for achieving goals and objectives. Then this information for the risk management, it will provide very valuable information for the management for decision making. Okay. Any questions? Do you have any questions? If you have any question, please go ahead, ask it, or you can post your question in the chat. Okay. Now we understood the concepts behind the, I can see a question in the chat. For slides, can we get it? For the slides, I will not share it with you. These slides, if you require a copy of the slides, it will cost you $25. But the recording, it will be uploaded for the IT certificates YouTube channel for free. Then you can get all the information from the YouTube for free. And if you are interested in the PDF copy of the slide, you can contact me offline for the slides. Okay. Okay. Now I think you are familiar with the risk management and the concept of the risk management. And as we highlight that the risk management, it is a process of identifying risks and opportunities and how the organization, it will deal with these risks. Also, we understood the importance of the risk management in the organization and how the risk management, it will help you in identified risks and opportunities, protecting assets, and this it will be very important also to achieve your goals and objectives. In some other situation, it may be a part of information systems or system management as ISO 27001 or ISO 9001 or ISO 27005, whatever the information management systems which you are planning to implement in your organization. Anyway, whatever the objective which you have for the risk management processes are standard. And let's start the first step in the risk management process. What is the risk management program? You have to develop the risk management program. What is the risk management program? Risk management program, it will be considered as the Bible for the risk management in your organization. How you will evaluate the risk, how you will discover the risk, how you will discover the opportunities, how you will make the risk analysis, or how you will make the risk evaluation, or how you make the risk treatment, or how you will create or develop a new security controls. All this information, it should be based in the risk management program. Risk management program, this it will be considered as the Bible for the risk management. This it will be considered as the documentation for the risk management and the standard for the risk management. For example, how you will evaluate the impact of the risks on your organization. This it should be consistent in the whole organization. It is nonsense that, for example, finance department, it will say that, okay, we will consider the impact, whatever any risks, which its value, it will be more than 5K US dollar, it will be considered as a major risk. And if we have another department, for example, the sales, they will say, no, this it will be too much. Let's consider whatever any risks which it will cause the company, or it will cause a loss in the company more than 10K US dollar as a major risk. Of course, this is nonsense, because whatever any department, as finance, as sales, as marketing, as IT, as security, all of them, we are working for the same organization. We must have the same reference and same results if they are doing the risk assessment. And if whatever any department, we will make any risk assessment in the organization, we must have a consistent results, and these results, whatever we or whoever the team and the department who is arranging the risk assessment, we must have the same results. Well, if you want to have a consistent results, you must have some references. You must consider the impact, how you will calculate the impact of the risks over the organization, or how you will make the risk evaluation, or how you will make the risk acceptance. Of course, we are saying a lot of expressions which it may act as complicated expression, but don't worry about all these expressions. We will cover this in more details when we will discuss each process one by one. Then the risk management, this it will be, risk management program, it will be considered as the Bible for the risk evaluation program in the organization. It will define the details of all the steps for the how you will evaluate the risk impact, how you evaluate the risk evaluation, how you will accept the risk, which are the risks which are considered as high or low, and what is the classification of these risks, and the probability or the likelihood of these risks. Is it we will consider the for example, risks happened more than one time per year as a high or medium, or it may be twice per year, it will be critical, and so on. Then all this information will be defined in the risk management program step. This is the process number one in the risk management processes. Another process which is very, very important, and unfortunately, a lot of people, we are not caring about this step, although it is very important. One of the wrong concepts in the market, that there are some people, when we will try to build a risk management program, they will not think about the organization context. What is the organization context? Organization context, these are the factors which affect the business in an organization, or the factors which are affecting the organization in performing business in the market. For example, to understand the concept, I will give you a very simple example. Just imagine you have two factors. One factor is doing sweets and candy, and another another factory is doing or manufacturing weapons and bullets. Both of them are factories, and you are, as security consultant, required to develop the risk management program for both the factories. One of them it's manufacturing sweets, and another one is manufacturing weapons and bullets. Do you think that the risk management, it will have, or risk management program, it will have the same factors in both cases? Or in other words, do you think that it is practical that you will develop the risk management program for the sweets factory, and you will say that this risk management program, it will be the same to be implemented in for the factory which is manufacturing the weapons and bullets? Of course not. We will have a lot of things which will make a big difference between both of them. First of all, the risks, it will not be the same. The risks for the factory, which it will do the or manufacturing the weapons, it will be higher because there may be some explosions. These factories, it will have high confidentiality because this is something related to the national security. There are a lot of other factors which it will control the risk management, and this it will affect the risk appetite, it will affect the risk actions, it will affect the risk analysis and so on. Then it is very important to understand the organization context where you want to implement the risk management. And when we will speak about this step for the context, organization context, I will show you what are the factors which it will affect the risk management program factors in any organization, even if it's normal organization or it's considered high sensitive organization. Step or process number 3, it will be the risk identification. It's very important to have a technique to understand the risk identification. And risk identification, there are a lot of factors which define the risk identification. Number 1, you have to define the assets. It is very important to understand the asset before to understand the risk. Number 2, you have to understand the asset value. Of course, asset value is very important because if you don't understand the asset value, it can represent a crisis for you. Of course, when you make the risk identification, the risk identification should based or start with the assets which have the highest value. Then this means that the asset value is very important here. It is not important to find out the risks related to a public asset. Suppose that you have a website, and this website you have publishing the marketing information over this website. Then this website, it is very important for you because you want to publish the services, the brochures of the services, what are the competitive edge and all this stuff. Then this information, it can be considered as important information for you, and you want to protect this web server because this server, it will represent you for the internet and it will represent you for the market as well. But in some other situation, you may have some other information which is public published. For example, you have a brochure, and this brochure you want to distribute it all over your customers. Why do you need to implement encryption, for example, for this brochure? It is not important. But if I have on the website a price list, this is considered as a very important topic, and it is very important information which you have to protect it by encryption. Then encryption here, it will depend upon the value of the asset or importance of the asset for the organization. Then now you have to understand the asset, you have to understand the asset value, you have to understand the existing controls What are the existing controls which we have? If we have specific existing controls, this it will be great because this it will minimize the risk, or it may mitigate the risk, and there will be no additional risks which we have to deal with. Then it's very important to understand what are the existing controls. We have to understand the vulnerabilities. We understand what are the assets which we have and what are the vulnerabilities which we have. And vulnerability, of course, as you know, that these are the weakness in any assets. It can be a software, it can be hardware, it can be a process, whatever any weakness in any assets. Also, what are the threats which it can threaten your assets? If you are able to understand the threats which it can able to threaten your assets, then you can understand the risk and you can minimize or mitigate these risks. These are the important informations which you have to understand in the risk identification. And we will cover this in more details when we discuss the risk identification process. The other process, it will be the risk analysis. Now we understood the asset value, existing controls, vulnerabilities. Then we have to understand what are the existing risks do we have. And usually when we say risk analysis, we are caring about two factors. What is the impact? What is the impact of the risk on our organization? How this risk it will affect the organization? How much of the organization it will lose if we have this risk? And what is the likelihood of this risk? How many times this risk it can happen per year or whatever, any specific time? And based on this information for the risk, when you will understand the impact and likelihood, we will be able to define the risk level. We will be able to define the risk level, as you will see how we can calculate the risk level. Then how you can evaluate the risk. How you can evaluate the risk. As we mentioned that we have risks, and these risks we have categories. It may be high, medium, low, and so on. How we can evaluate? What is the level, or what will be the threshold which we will consider that whatever any risk be less than this specific threshold, it will not be mitigated. We will accept it, and there is no further action it will be required. But there are other risks which it will be considered very critical, and we must have additional controls or mitigations to be able to eliminate this risk and decrease its impact on the organization. Process number 6, how you will treat the risk. What are the different actions which you can consider if you want to deal with these risks? As you will see later, that we have 4 actions for risk treatment. We can mitigate the risk, we can accept the risk, we can eliminate the risk. Sorry, not eliminate. We have the accept, we have the mitigate, we have to ignore, you are right. You have also the ignore effect. These are the effects which we can. Sorry?
Avoid effects.
Yes, to avoid it, yes. These are the treatment actions which we can use for any risk. We will speak about these risks actions in detail. Finally, the risk acceptance. We have to accept some sort of risks, as we define that we have a specific threshold. This specific threshold, whatever any risks behind this threshold, we will accept it, or after we make modification for the risks by implementing security controls, we will still have some residual risk. And this residual risk, we have to accept it. And of course, this residual risk, it should be in the level of the risk acceptance. Again, we will cover this in more details after few minutes. Finally, we have the risk monitoring. It is very important, my friends, to monitor the risk. As we mentioned, it is not one-time function. It is not one-time function or job. It's a continuous job. At least you must have the risk management every year to make sure that the level of risks is stable. It's not changed. There are no new risks imposed in the organization. Especially, we have a lot of factors which it can introduce new risks as changes in technology, changes in the market, changes in activities and processes, changes in objectives and goals, and so on. Then we have a lot of factors which it can introduce new risks. When we say risk monitoring, usually I like very much to highlight here that it is not only the risks which it should be monitoring. Again, we have to monitor the security controls. We have to monitor the security controls as well. When this step, it's very important to monitor the risks, and this risk is the old risks which is already assessed, and to make sure that the level of these risks it's not changed or it's increased. Also, we have to assess for any new introduced risks. Besides, we have to assess that the security controls are doing its exercise properly and they are able to achieve the controls objectives. If I have a firewall and the firewall is not doing its objective properly, then this means that still my risk it is high. Although I implement a risk modification security control, but if it's the firewall, it's not able to detect any unauthorized access or whatever, then this means that there may be a problem in the configuration, there may be a problem in the iOS, whatever. There should be some action to make sure that the control is working properly, or the control, it may not be enough, and we may add additional controls for additional protection as a form of depth in defense index. These are the risk management processes. I like to clean the screen, then you will be able to see it properly. Because this it will be for your reference in the recording later. These are the risk management processes. We are 8 processes, and we will cover them in detail in the next few slides. The last point which I want to highlight here about the risk assessment. When we say risk assessment, we mean that the risk identification, analysis, and evaluation. Unfortunately, my friends, there are a lot of security engineers, we have a conflict in the meanings and the terminologies. We are using risk management as a risk assessment and risk analysis. There is a big difference between all these definitions. Risk management, it's totally different from the risk identification, from risk analysis, from risk evaluation. We will go through all these in details, but I want to highlight this concept for you, then you will be able to concentrate in the next few slides to understand these concepts in detail. I think we covered the first topic, and I really like to have the break, 10 minutes break. Okay. In the first session, we covered the risk management basics and definitions. we explained the meaning of the risk management and what are the benefits of the risk management for any organization. Also, we went through the risk management processes very quickly, and we know that there are 8 processes which are representing the risk management. What we will do now, that we will start digging more in the first risk management process, which is the risk management program. What will be our methodology in the course? We will go through each process in more details, and you will find here the important definitions which I want you to know about. Then instead of going through all definitions in 1 or 2 or 3 slides, which is considered a boring method, and I'm quite sure that you will not have the enough information and concentration to understand more than 20 definitions at the same time, then we will try to go through all the definitions one by one. First process in the risk management is the risk management program. And as I mentioned during the introduction of the risk management processes, that the risk management program is considered as the Bible for the risk management in any organization. It defines a lot of information which it will provide consistency for the risk management process and results in any organization. First thing in the risk management, we have to define what are the risk management objectives. Why do you want to implement risk management? In life, we are doing things because we are expecting results. Why we want to implement risk management processes in our organizations? There are many reasons. Number one, it may be for ISO 27001 implementation. ISO 27001 require continuous risk management process for protecting assets. Okay, this is one of the reasons. Risk management may be because I want to make sure that I am compliant with the local and international compliance laws and regulations. Risk management, it may be because I want to protect my assets, then I will be able to achieve my goals and objectives. Then I have to define what are the objectives of the risk management. By the way, it may be all the previous reasons together. I am an enterprise organization. I want to be compliant with the local and international regulations. I want to protect my assets. I want to achieve my goals and objectives. All these objectives are valid for my organization, and this is the reason why I want to build a professional risk management program. Then it is very important to define your objectives for the risk management, because these objectives will define what are the other factors and requirements which it will support the risk management program. Number two, you must have commitment and support from the leadership. In security, my friends, as you know, that if we don't have support from your leadership and management, then unfortunately the exercises, it will not succeed. You know, we usually speak about this when we are explaining the risk management, risk policy development. We are saying that we have two different concepts in the risk policy development. We have the top down or bottom up. Top down, that the risk the security policy, it is developed and maintained by the management. This is why it's called from top to down, because it's coming from the management to other layers. And this means that it's enforced all over the company. But if it's from bottom to up, where the security policy is developed by the IT department or security department, then unfortunately, and there is no support for the from the leadership, unfortunately, you will not be able to enforce this policy, and you will find some weakness and vulnerabilities in the implementation of this policy. It's the same concept for the risk management. Risk management, you must have leadership for the risk management. We have to understand the importance of the risk management for the organization. We have to provide the resources. It is very important. If I want to develop risk management, it's not just some processes and papers. You need a lot of resources, you need money, you need people, you need time, you need facilities, you need a lot of things which it will be required, maybe for 1 year or 2 years. It depends upon the size of your organization. When the leadership commitment is very important for resources to explain the importance of the risk management for employees. Because if the the management, they understand the risk management importance, but the employees, they don't, then you will find a resistance from the employees, and they will not help you in the implementation. But if the management, they succeed in explaining the importance of the risk management of the employees and what will be the benefits which they will gain from implementing the risk management, then this means that it will make life very easy, and people, they will understand their roles and responsibilities. Leader or the management, they have to also develop rules and responsibilities for the risk management program. It is very important to understand what are the rules and responsibilities. First thing, you have to appoint a risk manager who will be responsible for the risk management program. Then we must have a person who will be appointed as a risk manager. He will be responsible for the risk management program. We have to define his responsibilities. We have to define the other roles. It may be for employees or assistants or whatever, and what are the responsibilities and expectations from each one of them. Even if it's a normal employee, if it's normal a person in the company, you must have responsibility. You have to highlight any problem which he can see, or to highlight any risk which he can see. He must feel free to speak loudly, and his sound, it must reach to the leadership and the management without any fear or problems or any bad things which can happen to him. In some situation, people, they are afraid to speak about some weakness in the processes and activities, because this it may affect their relation with the direct manager or the highest management. But this, of course, if we have support and commitment from the leadership for the risk management, this it should disappear. Because when an employee, he will speak about a specific weakness, I am not here to point that this manager, he is not good or he has a problem or whatever. No, we are here to point that we have a problem, and this problem, it will affect our organization, and we have to solve this problem. Then we will be able to achieve our goals and objectives, and by the end of the day, it's win-win relation. Because if the organization is able to achieve its goals and objectives, then the employees, they will improve their status, they will get salary increase, they will improve their future career, and so on. Then it's very important to develop the roles and responsibilities for all the stakeholders who will be affected or affect the risk management process in any organization. We have also to define who will be the risk owner criteria. We have a process. Suppose that we have a process. I am working in a factory for manufacturing sweets. Then We have two lines. One, it's manufactures the chocolate, and other one manufactures the candy. And we have some bugs or weakness in each of these processes. Then who will be the risk management or the risk owner? Who will be responsible for this risk? Is it the business side or the technical side? Is it the business people or the technical people? We have to create a specific criteria. Risk owner, he must understand the risk very well. He must know the value of the asset and what is the consequences of this asset. It's not working properly on the organization overall objectives and goals. But in this case, the risk owner, he may be a business, or he may be the person who is responsible for the process himself or the activity itself. But this means that you have to define the risk owner criteria. What is the risk owner criteria? Let's say that in the organization, we agreed that the business or the owner of the processes, they will be the risk owner, because the business owner, they understand the importance of the process for the organization, they understand the dependencies, we understand the other interrelated activities, and so on. Another important point is the risk management policy. You must have a risk management policy. You must have a written document to explain what is the intent of the management for the risk management in the organization. Why do we need the risk management? As we mentioned here, the objectives which it is required. We have to define the objective. Also, we have to define the roles and responsibilities. We have to define how you will report risk, for example, how you will deal with risk, how the analysis it will be done, and so on. Then all this information must be available in a document. This document should be available for all the people, and they have to be able to reach at any time when they require the information. Finally, it is very important to understand what will be the methodology and the activities. A question for you, my friends. What is the definition of methodology? I think this is the first question which I ask. Usually, I like to ask the people then to make them active, but during this session, we have a lot of information we have to mention first before asking questions. I think this is the first question which I want you to be involved in answering. What do you think? What is the definition of methodology? You can answer verbally, or you can post your answer in the chat. What is the definition of the methodology? Any answer?
Hello. Methodology. Are you getting me?
Yeah, please go ahead. I can hear you.
Okay. Methodologies. This is the procedural, step by step, on how to execute on how to carry out a task given.
Okay. Good. Any other answer? I can see other answer in the chat. It's coming from Wael Kamil, body of methods. Okay. I think you are right. The methodology, my friends, very easy. It is a way of doing something. It is a way of doing something. How you will implement the risk management in your organization? Can we do it quantitative or qualitative? Can we do it by numbers, or we can do it by grades, and so on? Then we have to define what will be our risk management methodology. As we will see later, we have multiple approaches, we have multiple methods, we have multiple methodologies, and all these methodologies are standard in the market, and you can choose whatever it will fit for your organization, but you have to do the exercise and understand these different methodologies and which one it will be better for your organization and which one it will provide more information for your organization and fit your requirements. By the way, when you're doing the risk management, it depends upon the results. Why you have the risk management? We will have it because we want to make sure that we are compliant with the regulations for ISO 27001 implementation to protect assets, so on and so. Then these objectives, we have to keep it in front of us. We make them very clear. We have to collect information from the risk management processes and provide this information to our management. Then they will be able to take a decision or proper decision for some management or business decisions. If the information is not clear or it's not enough, then this means that you will face a problem because you are not able to manage the risk management program properly. Then the assessment and methodology must provide the required information for the management. This is the risk management program. This is the risk management program. And also, we have to define the evaluation point. You remember when we said how you will define the impact of a risk on an organization, or how you will define the risk evaluation and the acceptance. All this information, it should be mentioned very clear in the risk management program, because this it will help the consistency for the risk management exercises. We will cover all this information later in the scenario, and I hope that we will have enough time to cover this scenario in the last day on Thursday, inshallah. Okay. Before going further, just I want to highlight some definitions. The risk management, I think we discussed this definition, the risk and opportunity. It is very important to understand something, my friends. Unfortunately, when we are speaking about risks, usually we are speaking about negative effect only. And this it will be valid only when we are speaking about IT risks. When we are speaking about IT risks, usually we are speaking about the risks or the negative effect. This means that the company, it will lose something. It may lose reputation, it can lose market share, it can lose money, it can affect the assets, whatever. Then it is a negative effect. But usually when we are speaking about enterprise risks, we will have another concept which is called opportunity. And opportunity, this is a positive effect. What is a positive effect? Just to understand the concept, let me give you an example. I am an organization. I am working in software development, and I have an agreement with a vendor that they will provide me PCs and notebooks when I need these devices. Of course, the operations, it's very critical for me, and I require these PCs as soon as possible. I have an agreement with the company. They are providing me the notebooks and everything is going fine. Suddenly, there is a new company, it came in the market. There is a new company providing notebooks and PCs, it came in the market, and they approach me and they say that they will provide me additional 10% discount over the percentage which I pay right now. This, it will be great. It will be great, although it's a risk, but it has some positive effect. It is a risk. Yes, it's a risk. Why? Because now I am satisfied with the company which I am working with it, and they can provide me the PCs and the desktops, notebooks on time without any delay. But when I will deal with a new company, I am not sure that we will be able to fulfill my needs and we will be able to deliver the PCs and notebooks on time as the previous one. Then this, it's a risk. What is the positive effect? Positive effect that I will save 10%. I will increase my revenue by 10%. In this case, there is a specific expression which is called exploit, What is exploit? Exploit, this means that I have to exploit the risk. I have to encourage the positive effect over the negative effect. How can I do it? What do you think? How we can exploit the positive effect over the negative effect in this scenario? Any answer? How you can exploit this opportunity and save additional 10% as revenue for your company. And this means that you have to empower the positive effect over the negative effect. How you can do this? What do you think? Any answer? Please don't hesitate. If you have any idea,
I will ask the current vendor to give me this discount. I will push them to give the take discount.
Okay, they agreed that they will give you the discount 10%.
No, not new vendor, current vendor which I work with them.
Okay. Okay, I got your point. Walid, he means that he will contact the current vendor and he will ask him for 10% additional discount. Okay, that's option. What else? What else, my friends?
Maybe I can order early before I need it. So I will keep as a spare part in my storage.
Excellent, Abdullah. This is my opinion as well. You know, my friend, this is my opinion, or this is the answer which I was preparing. But okay, what is our objective? Our objective to empower the positive effect over the negative effect. What is the negative effect? That the company, they will not be able to provide me the PCs on time when I need them. Then I want to make a new development and I need some servers. The servers are not available. I have to be delayed and so on. Then, okay, I will buy 2 or 3 servers and keep it in my warehouse. And I will consider this as a spare. If I need anything, I will take from these servers. And on the other hand, when I receive the new servers, I will put it in the warehouse. This one method of exploit the risk. Another method, as Walid mentioned, okay, I will go to my original vendor and I'll ask him, okay, my friend, I don't want to leave you. We have a good relations. We are doing business together since a long time. I will accept the 5% or even 7% instead of 10. This it will be for your sake and for our business relation. I can see another answer in the chart. It's coming from Abdulaziz. Measure risk appetite. Okay, but I think risk appetite, it's early now to speak about risk appetite, but we will cover this very soon. Okay, then these are the difference between the risk and opportunity. Usually, as I told you, when we are speaking about the risk, usually it will be in the IT risk. I mean, when we are speaking about IT risks, we are speaking about risk. But usually in the opportunity, it will enterprise risk. It will be in enterprise risk. This is the reason why in some books you will not find opportunity. People will speak about opportunity when we discuss the enterprise risk. Of course, you know that the IT risks this covered in the ISO 27005. Enterprise risk, it is covered in ISO 3100. Last question in this slide. What is the relation between ISO 3100 and ISO 27005? What is the relation between ISO 3100 and ISO 27005? Any answer? Okay. ISO 3100, it is enterprise risk. When we are speaking about enterprise, then it will be all the risks and opportunities not related to IT risks only. It can be risks in IT, it can be in finance, it can be in services, it can be in supply chain, and so on. And for example, if I'm working in a bank and there is a customer, he came and he asked for a loan, then I have to make a risk assessment if this customer will be able to pay back the loan, if the business which he is looking for, it will be acceptable in the market and it's required or not, and so on. Then this is some sort of risk assessment, and this is considered as enterprise risk management, which is covered in ISO 31000. In ISO, we have their own management services. Management system as ISO 27005, ISO 27001 and 27701 for privacy management services and all this stuff. All these ISO require risk management. Then ISO, they make a tailored version from the ISO 3100, which is enterprise architecture, as IT risks, which is called ISO 27005. Then the 27005, it is a version for IT risk assessment. It's developed and derived from the ISO 3100 enterprise risk assessment. I can see a question in the chat from Wael. From my point of view, because ISO 27005 is especially developed to provide guidelines on how to organize information security risk management, and ISO 3100 is developed to provide guidelines on how to organize global risk management. You are totally right, and as we mentioned, this is for enterprise and this is for IT, and by the end of the day, both of them, we are representing each other, but the 27005, it is developed for the ISO management systems implementations. Excellent. Okay. What is the second process? It is the context establishment or the organization context. Organization context, my friend, it is a very important topic. And again, I will repeat the example which I highlighted before. But before going further, if you don't mind, I want to break for the attendance record. Okay. In the first session, I gave you an example of the organization context. And again, I will repeat this example because it's very important, because it will make the explanation of this process very easy. We have two organizations or two factories. And these two factories, we want to implement the risk management. They invite a third party or consultant, and they ask him to implement the risk management for both of them. First factory, we are specialized in manufacturing sweets, chocolates. The other factory, we are specialized in manufacturing weapons and bullets. Of course, as you can see, the two factories' activities are totally different. And of course, it will make a big difference in the implementation of the risk management processes in each factory. In the factory where we are manufacturing the weapons, we have high risks. This number one. We have a lot of risks, which it's really dangerous. There may be some explosions, they may affect the nature around them, they may affect the neighbors, they may affect the environment, they may represent the dangers for the city or the town where they are reside in. We have confidential data, which is considered as national security. But as you can see, that the risks which we have, we are considered as critical. And this, it will lead to something called risk appetite. The risk appetite, this is their appetite to accept the risk, or they're willing to accept the risk in the organization where we are manufacturing the weapons. They don't have the luxury to accept high risks, because what will be the high risk? Explosion? Of course, this it will not be accepted. Stealing data, then the weapons blueprints, it will be public and spread over the internet. Again, this is not accepted. Well, this means that we have here some factors which it affect the risk management. This, it will affect the risk appetite. What is the risk appetite? The risk appetite, as I mentioned to you, it is the level of accepting specific risks without affecting the company or goals and objectives. I have some risks. These risks, it will not affect the organization in achieving its goals and objectives. For example, I will have a risk which it will cost me $5,000. Okay, it's not a big issue, $5,000, I can live with it. It's not a big deal. And as we can see later in the risk treatment, what will be the other methods for dealing with these risks? Then this means that the risk appetite here, it will be different, because in the factory which we are manufacturing chocolate, what can happen? The recipe, it will be leaked over the internet. Of course, this it will be important. It can be a patent. This it means that the organization goal and objectives and the factory can be closed. I can understand this. But again, the level of the risks here are not high as in the case where the factory who are specialized in manufacturing the weapons and bullets. Okay, then to understand the nature of the business, it's considered the main success in risk management program. You have to understand the organization context. What is the organization context? Organization context, these are the factors which affect the organization in doing business in the market. Usually this, it will be divided into two steps. We have, for example, internal factors, and we have external factors, and we will have external factors. What do you mean? Internal factors, it will be, for example, the management, how the management is deal with the organization, what is the structure of the company, are we open-minded company for risks? There are some companies where people, we cannot do any mistakes. If you will do any mistake, you will be terminated. Then just imagine the nature of these companies. We will not be ready to do any mistakes, or even if they discovered any mistakes, they will deal that we did not notice it because we don't want to highlight it when we will be in a trouble with the management. Then again, what are the attitude of the management regarding the employees, the staff, the business? What are the activities of the company? As we can see, the type of the products which you manufacture, it can affect the factors where you are doing the business. If you are doing, or if you are manufacturing weapons, it will be totally different from the one who are developing or manufacturing sweets. Also, you can have some external factors. These external factors are the factors which are related to outside the organization, but on the other hand, they are affecting your presence in the market and the way of doing business. For example, it may be political problems, or it may be competition in the market. It may be also some culture. It may be a culture difference in the culture. And for example, if you have a multi-international company, you will have an office in America, office in Europe, office in China, office in MEA. Then of course, each location, we have their own culture. Then if you have an office in China, you will find that there are a lot of controls and monitoring for all the activities, and whatever any activities will be monitored over the internet, and this it will be legal from point of view of China laws and regulations. But if they have the same concept of monitoring and inspection for the data in America or India or any other location, this it can be deviation from the data privacy or user privacy or the rights of the citizens and so on. And these are the organization context, internal and external factors which it can affect the way of doing business in the market. Another factor, it is the stakeholders' expectations. Stakeholders' expectations, it's very important. These stakeholders, they can be internal and external. Internal, we are the employees, we are the board of directors, we are the managers, we are the supervisors. All these people, we have some expectations. Employees, we are expecting that the companies, it will protect their data. It will protect their privacy. Management and board of directors, we are expecting that the organization, it will be able to achieve goals and objectives. Supervisors, we are expecting that the people, they will be able to do their exercise properly. We have to assess all these expectations using the risk management. Are we able to achieve our goals and objectives as the board of directors require? Yes or no? No, why? Because we have some threats in our assets, then we have to develop some security controls to protect these assets. If I will be able to protect the employee privacy or not? No, why? Because these data moved or exchange in clear text, where I have to implement, for example, encryption. Then these are the expectations of the internal stakeholders, and this, it will affect the risk management. It will affect the risk management because all these points which we mentioned are considered as risks, and it should be highlighted by the risk management program. Also, you can have the stakeholders as external. And this external, it's very important to understand that these people, external stakeholders, we have their own expectations as well. Like what? Like customers, like vendors, partners. For example, a customer, when they provide you their information, we are expecting that you will provide the protection, proper protection, and provide protect their privacy. Again, you have to take this in your risk management process to protect their information and check if you have the proper controls or not. And if it's not, then you have to provide these controls. Also, partners and vendors, there may be an interchange or exchange data between your network and their network. And we are expecting that you will protect their data, protect their processes and activities, which are shared with you over the network. And this means that you have to provide data confidentiality and integrity for their data. It's nonsense that this data for partners and vendors, it can be exploited or it can be compromised in your organization. This, it will be crisis. It will affect your presence in the market. It will affect your reputation and so on. When these stakeholders, even we are internal and external, they have some expectations and we are expecting that you will provide the protection, proper protection for their expectations and their interest. And this, again, it should be highlighted by the risk management program to provide the proper security controls. It is very important to define the risk management objectives. Why do we need risk management? As we mentioned in the risk management program, it may be for ISO management system implementation, or we want to protect assets, then we will be able to achieve goals and objectives, or we want to make sure that we are compliant with the local and international laws. All these informations are very important, and these objectives are very important to be taken as seed or input for the risk management or risk assessment process. Here we have another very important topic. We have to define basic criteria or the factors which it will provide the consistency of the results of the risk management or risk assessment, risk evaluation. As we mentioned, we have a risk appetite. We have a risk appetite. This risk appetite, say it is $5K US dollars. Then whatever any risk below this threshold or risk appetite, I will not care about it. I will not care about it. Why? Because these risks they are small and I can live with it, and it will not affect the organization's goals and objectives. But if we are higher than 5K, again, I must have some levels. Maybe 10K, then I can consider whatever here it will be as low risk level. If it reached to 20K, then it will be considered as this level as medium, for example, medium risks. If it will reach up to 30K, it will be considered as high level. And if it reached up to 50K, then whatever any, it will be considered 30 and above, it will be critical. And I have to deal with it very urgently and take the all necessary steps. These values, it should come from in the risk management program. And again, this, it will be affected by the organization context, because these values, of course, it will be totally different in any organization which it will manufacturing the weapons, for example. Because in the weapons, the income or the revenue of the company, it may be by billions. And of course, I will never say that the accepted level, it will be 5K. It may be 100K, it may be 200K. Of course, usually it will be a percentage of the yearly revenue. Usually the risk appetite or the risk appetite loss, it will be a percentage of the yearly revenue. Now we make the risk evaluation, the risk acceptance, and we will accept it if it's less than the risk appetite. Risk evaluation, we have to define how we evaluate the risk and the impact, how much I will lose if I have this risk in my company. Also, it is very important to understand what is your scope and boundaries. In some situation, your organization may be enterprise organization. You have branches in different maybe regions and countries, and you don't want to implement the risk management program in all the locations because it will be very complicated, and this it will lead to a failure in the future. Then you have to define your scope, that you will say, okay, I will implement this in the head office, and next few years I will implement it in the other regions and so on. Then you have to define your scope. this scope, it can be by location, it can be by processes, or it can be by products, or it can be by activities. It depends upon your strategy and the management requirements and expectations from the management program. This the process of the context establishment. Do you have any questions?
صوت يا باشمهندس.
I'm really sorry. I was speaking while I was muted. Thank you for the note. Okay, thank you very much for you coming back. We will continue for the risk management processes, the process number 3. Process number 3, it will be the risk identification, and this is one of the most important processes which we have to work on it. Although it is seemed very easy, but it is very important to take in your consideration all the steps to do it properly. Number 1, you have to define the assets. As we mentioned, what is the risk management approach? The risk management approach that we have to highlight the assets and to protect these assets. Okay, great. Number 1, you have to define what are these assets. Usually one of the main problems which we are facing in the market, that after we are doing the exercise of assets identification, we will find that the customer, he missed some servers or devices or appliances, and this may be reside in remote branches. Although they are very important for his operation, but he is not remember them because they are not on his side, or he has a lot of other things which make him to forget to mention these devices for us. Then you have to define these assets. You have to define all the assets. And when we are saying assets, my friend, I am not speaking here about IT assets. I'm not speaking about hardware and software. Assets here, it can be a process, manufacturing process, how you will manufacture a bullet, how to manufacture a bullet, how to manufacture a gun, how to manufacture a weapon, what are the activities of manufacturing the bullet, and so on. These are assets. These are assets, because what is the real definition of the asset? Can you tell me what is the definition of the asset, my friend? This is very important, and I want to make sure that all of you get the right definition. What do you think? What is the definition of the asset? Anyone have any answer? Please, I need your interactive discussion, because this, it will improve your understanding and we will share information together. What is the definition of asset? You can speak or you can post the answer in the chat.
Assets are something that has value to the organization.
Okay.
And they are supportive assets and primary assets. Primary assets such as policies and procedures, activities. Supportive assets are network and etc.
Okay, I think Muhammad Wasim, he is familiar with the ISO definitions, because he gave us the ISO definition for the assets. Anyway, my friends, what the important information which I want you to understand that the asset, it is any entity which it has a value for the organization. It is any entity which has a value for the organization. It can be hardware, software, data, activity, process, and so on. Whatever any of this considered as an asset for the value. Even people, we are asset for the value, right? People, we are asset for the value. Because without the people, the organization, it will not be able to do anything. Without the people and their skills and expertise, companies, they will not be able to achieve their goals and objectives. Then the point here, you have to define what are the assets. The second thing, you have to define the value for this asset. I am not saying value means that how much it will cost. A file server, this server, it will cost me $1,000. No, I mean the value of the asset for the organization. It may be a server, for example, let me give you an example. You have one server in one organization, and this server, it has some data. How much it will cost this server? 1,000 US dollar. And you have another server in other organization, but it is saved with a lot of patents and recipe for manufacturing, and recipe for manufacturing whatever, any products, anything. When we are the same server, this server basically cost 1,000 US dollars, and this server cost 1,000 US dollar. But this server for its organization, it costs this value. But this server for its organization, it costs more than these values a lot. Why? Because it has very critical information stored on it. Then you have to provide more security controls and protection for this server. And by the end of the day, the asset's value, it will be represented, or the measure, it will be compared for its importance for the organization. When we say asset value, this importance for the asset for the organization. One quick note, which it may be helpful for all of you if you are working in risk management. Who is the best person who can define the asset value? Who is the best person who can define the asset value?
Owner, an owner.
You are right, the asset owner. The asset owner, he is the right person who can define the best value. And again, I am not saying the value here as how much it will cost, because we have a lot of factors which you have to consider when you will consider the asset value. First of all, how much it will cost, how much I will lose if this asset it's not available. The operations to get this server or asset up and running again, maintenance value, and all this will be direct and indirect cost. Now I understood the assets and I understood the asset value. Then what are the vulnerabilities of the asset? What is vulnerability? Vulnerability, it is a weakness of an asset, a weakness of an asset. Vulnerabilities are weakness of an asset. This, it can be, as we mentioned, the asset, it can be hardware, it can be software, it can be a process, it can be whatever. When, for example, I am exchanging data with a third party, and the data, it is exchanged in clear text, then the vulnerability that the data is exchanged in clear text and it should be encrypted. Then these vulnerabilities, it's very important to understand what are the vulnerabilities of this asset. These are the points of weakness of the assets, because these are the points which can be exploited by the hacker to cause loss for these assets and make it unavailable. Consequently, this, it will affect the organization and it will not be able to achieve its goals and objectives. Then we defined assets. What are the asset value for the organization? What are the asset vulnerabilities, and what are the threats? What is the definition of threat? Threat, these are the actions which it can cause a harm for an asset. They are actions which it can cause an harm or unwanted impact to an asset. These threats, it can be anything. It can be natural threats as volcanoes, flooding, earthquakes. It can be human threats. It can be wrong mistakes or wrong configuration. It can be bugs, software bugs. It can be hardware bugs, or whatever. And these are the threats, which are the actions which it can use the vulnerability of the asset to cause an unwanted impact or a harm for your asset. Then you have to understand the consequences, or in other words, we call it impact. What is the impact? Now we define the asset and we define the vulnerabilities. Then what will happen if I have an asset and this asset, it has a vulnerability? I know that it has a vulnerability. I define it in my assessment. And there is a threat. This threat, it may be a hacker, for example, and he is trying to exploit or cause harm to the asset using this vulnerability. Then what will be the impact? How the threat, it will impact the organization. How this threat, it will impact the organization if the hacker, he was able to exploit this vulnerability. This impact, it can be financial, it can affect the reputation, it can affect your market share, it can be in the form of regulation uncompliance, regulation and laws uncompliance. We have a lot of impacts which can be considered. As we mentioned, it can be financial, it can be reputation, it can be laws and regulations, it can be anything. Then by the end of the day, when we are thinking about impact, it's not only a matter of money, because there are some organizations, they are quite ready to hear to lose millions of dollars, but they don't want to have their name in the media saying that they are exposed or they are compromised, because this, it will affect their reputation and it will affect their market share, and you will find that their market share, it decreases immediately next day in the financial news and financial media. Okay. We defined assets value, what are the vulnerabilities for these assets, and what are the consequences or impact of the threats if it will utilize the vulnerability or exploit the vulnerability. And finally, we have to define the existing controls. Because when you are doing risk identification, you are not doing everything for a new company. It's already existing company. They may have some security controls. They may have some firewalls. They may have security policy. They may have IPS. They may have BPN-SSL. They may have separation of duties. They may have job rotation techniques. They may have some security controls. And all these security controls, it will help in minimize the risks and minimize the impact and likelihood of the risk. Then you have to define what are the existing controls as well. In the bottom of the screen, you can see the definition of the risk assessment. And the risk assessment here, it's quantitatively and qualitatively describe the risk and enable manager to prioritize risk. This, we will have this in more details later. You will have the asset, and we define that the asset, which it's any entity which it has a value for the organization, and we defined already the threats. Okay, very quickly, I want to describe the difference between quantitative and qualitative risk assessment. As we mentioned before, the risk assessment, it consists of the risk identification, risk analysis, and risk evaluation. The quantitative and quality, it's derived from quantity and quality. Quantity, this it will consider, or it will make the risk assessment based on numbers. This means that if I have risk one, I will lose $100,000 US. Risk two, I will lose $10 US. Risk three, I will lose 50, and so on. When the risks, it will be very accurate and well defined, where the value of the loss, it will be expressed in money-wise, But in qualitative, it will be defined in relation to each other. I will say risk one, it is considered high. Why high? Because as you can see that it is it will cause a loss 100K. Three, it will be medium. Two, it will be low. When in the qualitative, this it will be comparable results. The risks, it will be identified by degree or levels, high, low, medium, or 1, 2, 3, and so on. But in the quantitative, this it will be represented in money-wise, and it will be considered more accurate. But of course, in qualitative, it is very difficult, and all the information usually it's not available, and you don't know the likelihood, exact likelihood of the risk. Then you will not be able to define this information actually or accurately. But usually the organization, it will use mix and match between qualitative and quantitative, as we will see later. Okay, the risk analysis. The process number 4, it is the risk analysis. In the risk analysis, you will find that we have to define some important factors. What are these? Methodology, how you will do the risk analysis. In the risk analysis, we have to define 2 important factors: consequences and likelihood. Consequences and likelihood. Consequences is the impact. And as we defined, what is the impact of a risk on the organization? If there is a risk happened, or a risk scenario happened, this it will affect the organization. How much I will lose. And again, when I am saying impact, I don't mean only financial. No, financial, it is one of the factors. It can be financial, it can be reputation, it can be market share, it can be laws and regulation and compliance. Yani, for example, if the data privacy of the users are leaked in European country, then this means that you have to pay 1 million euro, or 2% of the overall revenue of the previous year. This, it's one of the impact. Also, this means that you will have a bad reputation in the market, you will lose a market share, and so on. And you have to define the likelihood, how many times the risk it can happen. Once per year, twice per year, once every 5 years. And for example, if you would say that, how many times we will have an earthquake, I will have a volcano in Saudi Arabia, I say once every 100 years. And this it can be considered neglectable. Or we can say how many times we will have flood in Saudi Arabia. I can say 1 every 2 years. And we had the scenario as happened in Jeddah, where we had the flooding in 2 consequent years. When this means that here you have to define the impact and the likelihood. Okay, great. When we define the impact, we have to define some specific values. This will be very important. How? For example, we have to say that, okay, we will define that whatever any value impact less than 10K, I will dig it into steps, or between 10K and 20K, or between 20K and 40, or between 40 and 60, and more than 60. This I will give it values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What do I mean? If I have a risk 1 and I will lose 10 or 15K if the risk happen, then this means that the impact, it will be classified as 2. The level, it will be 2. If the value, I will lose 100K, then it will be 5 because it's over 60. Why? Because these values, as I told you, we must have a factor to ensure the consistency of the information. Then if I have any company or any division in an organization and doing risk assessment using the same risk management program, we have to follow the same classification. Then if I have an risk, it will cause an impact of $30,000, I know that the impact classification should be number 3 because 30 it's in the mid of this page. Okay, then this is for the impact. For the likelihood, I will say, okay, I want to do it again as different levels. If the risk, it will happen 1 per 5 years, or 1 per 1 year, or twice per year, or 5 times per year, or more than 5 times, I will say this again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the categories of the likelihood. Then if I say that the flooding, it will happen twice per year, then twice per year, it will be this situation. Then this means that it will be number 3. It will be number 3. Okay, that's fine. The risk level, it is very important information. What is the risk level? The risk level, my friends, it has a very important relation between the impact and the likelihood. Then, if we go back and say, okay, we have a risk of flooding. What is the risk level? I will say, okay, flooding, how much I will lose? I will lose 30K. When 30K, it will be in this range. When the impact, it will be 3. Impact, it will be 3. How many times it will happen? The likelihood twice. When this is twice per year. When the likelihood, it is 3 again. When if I want to calculate the risk level, it will be impact 3 and likelihood 3. Then the risk level, it will be 9 for likelihood. Or I mean the flooding type. To understand the risk level, let's take another example. Data privacy. Data privacy, leakage of data privacy. If we will say that if we have data privacy, what is the impact? The impact, it will be very high, very high. Why? Because I will have a case from the government against me. Then this means that it will be more than 60, of course, it will be more than $60,000. Then the level impact, it will be 5. Okay, how many times it can happen per year? Yani it can happen 1 every 2 years. one every 2 years. يعني usually it will be level number 1. Then the likelihood it will be 1. Then if I want to calculate the risk level here, the impact we mentioned that it is 5 and the likelihood it is 1, then the risk level here for the data privacy leakage, it is 5. Then which one is more dangerous for the organization? The risk level 5 or risk level 9? What do you think?
9.
9, of course. Risk level 9, it will be more dangerous. Then this, it will be high or critical, and this one, it can be medium. And of course, when we define the risk level, why we have to define the risk level? We have to define the risk level because we have to start to build the risk treatment, how we will treat these risks, and what are the affected assets, and what will be the security controls. But if I want to develop new security controls to mitigate these risks, I have to start with the risk levels which are critical to my organization. It is nonsense to start with risks which considered as low, because this means that I will consume the budget and all my money in some protecting some assets which are not important for my organization. But the risk level, it will help me to understand the importance of the assets for the organization and the importance of the asset for achieving goals and objectives, and I have to protect the organization against the high and critical risks first before going further for other risks. Risk evaluation. The risk evaluation, it will compare the risk level. You remember we mentioned that the risk level for the flooding, it was 9, and for the data privacy, it was 5. We have to define the risk evaluation with the evaluation risk criteria. What is evaluation risk criteria? Evaluation risk criteria, this is the risk appetite. This is the value which you have to define where the organization, it can accept the risk without any action. It can live with this risk without any action. Then, for example, it will say, okay, let's go back to the impact which we define it here. Here, we mentioned that the impact, if it's less than 10K, if it's between 10K and 20K, if it's between 20 and 40, and if it's more than 60, these are the numbers. And if the management, they will say, okay, our risk appetite, it will be 10% out of the revenue. And we found that the risk, this revenue, it will make the value 15K. When the risk appetite, it is 15K. $15,000 US. $15,000 US, this means that in number 2. But of course, number 2, it will not be okay, because in number 2, we have 20. Then whatever any value in as classified risk level 1, it will be acceptable. In level 1, it will be acceptable. Okay? And whatever any value less the risk value 1, it will be acceptable. Then when we come here for risk evaluation, I will compare. I calculate the risk level. Then when I calculate the risk level, I will compare it. What is my risk evaluation criteria, or what is my risk acceptance? Risk acceptance, it is 1. Then if it's 1, I will say, okay, this 9, this 5, then I have to take an action. Because only the risks which are value 1, it will not take any action for it. We will accept it as is. We will accept it as is. But for the risks which are over than the 1, risk level over than the 1, we have to take specific action, as we will see later. Okay? Any questions?